assured process. So in one context purposes, when a person fixes his mind on eternal exquisite form of Shyama Sundara, the blackish beautiful Lord Krishna, all distress and anguish are vanquished. In the initial stages, the attempt to fix the mind on Krishna may be unsuccessful. But with regulated practice, Abhyasa Yoga, it becomes possible. Abhyasa Yoga means sincere engagement in the ninefold process of bhakti, from chanting and hearing the holy name, pastimes, and so on of Lord Krishna. Proper execution of Abhyasa Yoga culminates in the awakening of divine consciousness, and this is true success. So next verse, all of you can recite. Abhyase api asamartosi.
Abhyase api asamartosi.
Matkarma paramo bhava.
Matkarma paramo bhava.
Madartam api karmani.
Madartam api karmani.
Kurvan siddhim avapsyasi.
Kurvan siddhim avapsyasi.
Abhyase api asamartosi.
Abhyase api asamartosi.
Matkarma paramo bhava.
Matkarma paramo bhava.
Madartam api karmani.
Madartam api karmani.
Kurvan siddhim avapsyasi.
Kurvan siddhim avapsyasi.
Krishna is saying, Abhyase api asamartosi. Abhyasaha, if you are not able to practice his regulated devotional service, asamartaha, because of some reason we are not able to practice it. Mat karma paramo bhava, work for me. Madartam api karmani, by working for me, kurvan siddhim avapsyasi, you will be able to achieve, come to the perfect stage. Siddhim, perfect stage, avapyasi, very soon. So if you cannot practice the regulations of Bhakti Yoga, Abhyase api asamartasi, then just try to work for me. Mat karma paramo bhavaha. Because by working for me, you will come to the perfect stage. Madardam api karmani kurvan siddhim avapsasi. So if one is not able to follow the regulative principles, then how can one come to the stage of perfection stage? So if one is not able to practice regulative principles, he can still be drawn to perfectional stage by working for the Lord. So in what kinds of work should one engage? So one should be sympathetic to the propagation of Krishna consciousness. So every endeavor requires a land, capital, organization, and labor. So if one has sufficient money, he can help in building an office or temple, or he can help with publications. This voluntary service to the cause of Krishna consciousness will help one to rise to a higher state of love of God, whereupon one becomes perfect. So Krishna says, Praner Adher Diya Vacha. By their life they can surrender, by their money they can surrender, by their intelligence they can surrender, by their vacha they can render service. So what if one cannot sacrifice? See, if one cannot sacrifice the results of his activities, he can still sacrifice some percentage, not all, at least some percentage to propagate Krishna consciousness. So in 11th canto, Krishna says to Uddhava, Yadi anisho darayatum mano brahmani nishyalam mai sarvani karmani nirapeksha samachara. Yadi anisho darayan, if you are not able to free your mind, mano brahmani nishyalam, from all material disturbances, and thus absorb it completely on spiritual platform, then perform all your activities as an offering unto me. Mai sarvani karmani nirapeksha, without trying to enjoy the fruits, samachara, just execute. Apeksha means expectations. Nirapeksha means without trying to enjoy the fruits.
One day, Buddha reached into the state of Magad with his pupils. He decided to stay there for some days. When residents of that state came to know that Buddha with his pupils is in their town, they started visiting him to see him. They also started bringing different kind of gifts for Buddha. Buddha was sitting with his pupils. People were coming to see him and gifting him expensive gifts. Buddha was accepting gifts to be distributed among poor. The great king Bimbisar also came to see Buddha, and he was the first to offer incredible gifts like precious jewels, gold coins, ornaments, and large quantity of foods. Prince Ajatashatru followed with gifts that were equally valuable and precious. Buddha was sitting amidst his pupils and accepting gifts by gesture of raising one hand up. Some another rich citizens and merchants also came to see Buddha with many expensive gifts. Buddha again received them with gesture of raising one hand up. Many kings, nobles and merchants presented gift to Buddha. He accepted them all with gesture of raising one hand up. After all the kings were done giving their offerings, an old, rough-looking woman arrived there. She was hesitating to come at the front and was hiding something in her hands behind. When Buddha saw her hesitating, he asked her, "Mother, why are you hesitating, and what are you trying to hide behind in your hands?" She greeted the Buddha and said eagerly, "O enlightened one, I heard about your visit to our town today. I am a poor woman and have nothing. When I heard the news, I was eating this pomegranate and had eaten only half. I have nothing else to give, so I brought along my half-eaten pomegranate. My Lord, I hope you will accept this because I have nothing else to give you apart from that." Buddha stood up, extended his both hands to receive the half pomegranate. He accepted it with respect and grace. This act of Buddha astonished everyone present there. Some of the kings even felt offended, but they were reluctant to ask it to Buddha. Taking initiative, one of the kings approached Buddha and asked respectfully, "My Lord, why did you receive her gift with both hands and all of our expensive gifts only by gesture of raising one hand? It was only half a pomegranate, and that too was half eaten. Her gift was nothing in comparison to ours. What was special in her gift that you stood up and received her gift with both the hands?" Buddha replied gently. He said, "My dear friend, you and all other rich merchants gave me very expensive gifts indeed, but none of you gave even a tenth of what you have. And even after you gave, your motive was also to gain more glory rather than charity. This woman gave her all that she had, and in return, she did not expect any glory. Her intentions were so magnanimous. I definitely needed to receive such a noble offering with both my hands. For me, her gift was noblest of all." Kings and other rich merchants of the town were ashamed now. Their ego of being rich and superior was crushed to pieces. They came to understanding that being rich and wealthy does not make you superior to others, but purity of your intentions is what matters more than the magnitude of your actions. We have seen in our life that sometimes people wish that if they had more money, they could do more charity, but they forget that charity does not depend upon the magnitude of your donation, but it depends upon the purity of your intentions.
So intentions are more applicable rather than external situations. The Lord sees the bhava, not the bahya. The next verse, all of you can say. Ata itad abhyasaktosi
Etat-apyasaktosi
kartum adyogam ashritaha
kartum ashritaha
sarva karma phalatyagam
sarva-karma pratyavam
tata kuru yatatmavan.
tata kuru yatatmava.
Ata itad abhyasaktosi
Etat-apyasaktosi
kartum adyogam ashritaha
kartum adyogam ashritaha
sarva karma phalatyagam
sarva-karma pratyavam
tata kuru yatatmavan.
tata kuru yatatmava.
So ata etad abhi asaktosi. Even if you are not able to engage in the service of the Lord, work for the Lord, kartum madyoga mashritaha sarva karma phalatyagam. At least sacrifice the results. Tata kuru yatatmavan. In that way, kuru, and you try to be self-situated. Yata atmavan. So if, however, if you are unable to work in this consciousness, ata etadavi kartum asaktahasi, then try to act, giving up all results of your work. Sarva karma phalatyagam, O Kuru, O Arjuna, and try to be self-situated. Tatah madyoga mashritaha yatatmavana. So in what circumstances one will not be able to support Krishna consciousness and what is advised for them? So if they are unable to even sympathize with the activities of Krishna consciousness because of social, familial, or religious considerations, or because of some other impediments, if one attaches himself directly to the activities of Krishna consciousness, there may be objections from family members and other difficulties. So for one who has such a problem, it is advised that he sacrifice the accumulated result for some good cause. There are many descriptions of sacrifices and special functions of punya or special work in which the result of one's actions may be applied. Finally, one may gradually become elevated to the state of knowledge. So sacrifice the hard-earned result. In that way, we develop pious activities. So by coming to the pious platform, slowly, we develop the knowledge by which one day we'll be able to come to the platform of devotional service. What is the advantage in sacrificing for a social cause? So even by giving charity to some hospital or some institution, he gives up the hard-earned results of his activities. So by giving hard-earned results, one is sure to purify his mind. So in that purified stage, he can become attracted to Krishna consciousness and he will be able to understand Krishna consciousness. So in what cases is social service recommended? So Krishna consciousness is not dependent upon any other experience because it itself can purify one's mind. But if there are impediments in accepting Krishna consciousness, one may try to give up the results of his actions, like social service, community service, national service. Sacrifice for one's country may be accepted so that someday one may come to the stage of pure devotional service to the Supreme Lord. So what is the principle behind this philosophy? Yata pravrittir bhutanam. If one decides to sacrifice for the supreme cause, even if he does not know that the supreme cause is Krishna, he will come gradually to understand that Krishna is the supreme cause by the sacrificial method. So today's last verse. This is the alternative process in Bhakti Yoga system. What if we follow that impersonal method in the initial first 3 verses what we saw? So here Krishna gives a conclusion of that also. Please recite. Shreyo hi jnanam abhyasaj.
Shreyo jnanam abhyasat.
Jnana dhyanam vishishyate.
Jnana
vishishyate.
Dhyanat karma phalatyagas.
Dhyana karma
Tyagas.
Tyagat shantiranantaram.
Shantirantaram.
Shreyo hi jnanam abhyasat.
Shreyo hi jnanam abhyasat.
Jnana dhyanam vishishyate.
Jnana dhyanam vishyate.
Dhyanat karma phalatyagas.
Dhyana karma
Tyagas.
Tyagat shantiranantaram.
Tyagat shantirantaram.
So for one, which is auspicious, Shreyo hi jnanam abhyasat, by practicing knowledge. Jnana dhyanam vishishyate, better than knowledge is meditation. Dhyana karma phala tyagas, better than meditation is renouncing one's results of fruitu, karma phala tyagaha. So by this tyagaha, shantihi, one becomes very peaceful, anantaram at the end. So if you cannot take to this practice, which is that practice mentioned in the, if you cannot take to this practice in the verse number 10, if you cannot work for the Lord, then engage yourself in the cultivation of knowledge. Hi abhyasa jnanam shreyaha. So better than knowledge, however, is meditation. Jnana dhyanam vishishyate. And better than meditation is renunciation of the fruits of action. Dhyana karma phala tyaga. For by such renunciation, one can attain peace of mind. Tyagat anantaram shantim. So what are the 2 kinds of devotional service? The way of regulative principles. The other one is the way of full attachment in love to the Supreme Lord. One is pure, the other one is regulated. So what is recommended for those who are not able to follow the principles of Krishna consciousness? So it is better to cultivate knowledge. So by knowledge, one will be able to come to the proper position, a real position. Then gradually by knowledge, he will be able to come to the point of meditation. Then meditation, one will be able to understand the Lord. Then he becomes sarva sanga parityagi. He will develop detachment from this material world. And in this way, he will be able to come to the Supreme, understand the Supreme, and he will be able to perfect in the process if one is unable to engage in devotional service. So what if one is unable to meditate in such a way? There are prescribed duties as enjoined in Vedic literatures. As respective Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra, one has to follow the respective duties. So what is the in general rule for all? So one should give up the result or fruits of labor. This means to employ the result of karmas for some good cause. So the direct method is topmost to down, devotional service in love of God, this is the highest stage. Devotional service according to regulation principles, the second stage. Work for Krishna, this is the third level. So we have to come to the platform of love of God. Then the indirect method, which is mentioned from down to topmost. The first one is renunciation of the fruits of action. Then one comes to the platform of knowledge. Then one comes to the stage of meditation. So then one comes to the platform of understanding the super soul, understanding the Supreme Lord. So one may take to the process either step by step. The direct process is not possible for everyone. Therefore, the indirect process is also good sometimes. So why is this indirect process not recommended for Arjuna? Because he is already in the stage of love of devotion. He is in the stage of pure love for the Lord. So for whom is this indirect process suggested? So who are not in the stage of Arjuna, for them this gradual process of renunciation, knowledge, meditation and realization should be followed. So which process is Bhagavad Gita recommending? As far as Bhagavad Gita is concerned, it is recommending the direct method, Bhakti Yoga. So that is simply surrender to the Lord and engage in devotional service. That's it. So whether Tyaga is meant for samsaris. Tyaga means one must be disgusted with this material way of life. That is Tyaga. But they are being educated to be more attached to this material world. Dr. Patel, this modern education. Prabhupada, yes. Dr. Patel, how to make a successful life? Prabhupada, Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yoga. This is Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga also Vidya. Vyasadeva also says, Anartha Upasamam Shakshat Bhakti Yoga. To get rid of this entanglement, unnecessary things, the only means is Bhakti. Dr. Patel. Modern advancement of science is actually here. Entangle the man in more and more bonds. But by creating more bonds for comfortable life. Prabhupada, what comfort? Dr. Patel, comfortable life means, Prabhupada, that is another. Comfortable life means comfort of the body. Prabhupada, to get a comfortable life, one has to work so hard. Where is comfort? Dr. Patel, yes, that is his foolishness. In Europe, they actually run in the morning to go to their work. They run like mad dogs. Prabhupada, but we are also. They may start running now. They are following them. Prabhupada, no. And I remember that I used to laugh the way they were running in the works. Prabhupada. That is here also everywhere. Therefore, Bhagavata says, no. This is not life. Nayam deha bhajan ruloke kastan kaman. So much labor for getting your bread, that is immediately stopped.
Yogi, that is the highest perfectional material conditional life. There are different grades of life within this material world. But if one establishes himself in the yoga principle, especially in this bhakti yoga principle, that means he is living in the most perfectional stage of life. Yes. So Krishna is recommending Arjuna, my dear friend Arjuna, in all circumstances, you be a yogi. Remain a yogi. Yes.
And of all yogis, he who always abides in me with great faith, worshipping me in transcendental loving service, is most intimately united with me in yoga, and is the highest of all.
Now, here it is clearly stated that of all yogis, there are different kinds of yogis. Ashtanga yogi, Hatha yogi, Jnana yogi, Karma yogi, Bhakta yogi. So, Bhakta yogi is the highest platform of yoga principle. So, Krishna says here, and of all yogis, there are different kinds of yogis. Of all yogis, he who always abides in me, in Krishna. Me means Krishna says in me. That means one who is keeping always in Krishna consciousness, abides in me with great faith, worshipping me in transcendental loving service, is most intimately united with me in yoga, and is the highest of all. This is the prime instruction of this chapter, Sankhya Yoga, that if you want to become perfect yogi on the highest platform, then keep yourself in Krishna consciousness and you become the first class yogi. Go on.
Purport. The Sanskrit word bhajate is significant here.
This word bhajate appears in the original Sanskrit verse yoginam api sarvesam madgata antaratmana bhajate jumang sadhyaman samay yukta tamo mataha. This bhajate, this word, Sanskrit word, it comes from the root bhaj dhatu. It is a bhar, bhaj dhatu. Bhaj means to render service. Bhaj. So this very word is used in this verse, bhaj dhatu. That means one who is devotee, who renders service to Krishna, unless he is devotee. Suppose you are rendering service here. Why? You can render service anywhere. You get $1,000 or $2,000 every month. But here you come and give your service without any payment. Why? Because out of love of Krishna. Therefore this bhaja, this service, loving service, is based on love of God. Otherwise, why one should waste his time for nothing? Here the students, they are engaged in so many things. Somebody is gardening, somebody is typing, somebody is cooking, somebody is doing something else, everything. But it is in connection with Krishna. Therefore the Krishna consciousness is prevailing always, 24 hours. That is the highest type of yoga. Yoga means to keep your consciousness intact with Vishnu or Krishna, the Supreme Lord. That is the perfection of yoga. So here it is automatically. Even the child can do it. The child is coming along with his mother and bowing down. Krishna, I bow down. So he is also Krishna conscious. A small child, he is clapping. Why? Hey, Krishna. So anyway, everyone is remembering all as Krishna, keeping Krishna consciousness. So even a child here is the highest yogi. It is not our boastfulness. It is stated in authorized scripture like Bhagavad Gita. We don't say that we have created these words for our boastful. No. It is a fact. Even a child can keep in the highest platform of yoga practice in this temple. That is the highest gift of this Krishna consciousness movement.
So this is the perspective of Krishna consciousness. Today we had the idea of what are the various stages yoga ladder, what is the direct process and what is the indirect process. So any questions, please? Any questions or doubts? Okay then, thank you all of you. We'll again meet next week. We'll finish the chapter. So the qualities of a pure devotee as enunciated by Lord Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, bro.
Hare Krishna.